Hello everyone, welcome to our mini training session where we're going to cover the fairly newish Word link to Workbooks. Good morning, my name is Tim Wilmot and I'm joined by my colleague Peter Johnson. Our company, Wizard Systems, we're a leading independent CRM solutions provider of systems like Workbooks, and we help out organizations with simple, affordable solutions to help them improve their sales, marketing, and customer service productivity. So thanks very much for those of you listening live on this little mini event, our fairly regular series of short presentations to show you and focus on different topics around Workbooks. And this morning we're going to cover the Word link and show you a nice example of what it can do. This event will be fairly short, about 10 minutes, quarter of an hour or so in duration. It's not meant to be a complete in-depth covering of this Word integration with Workbooks. Wizard Systems, our company, we can provide extensive help for you if you need it. There's a lot of online resource help around it, but if you want any further advice on that, please contact us. Now, the audio part of this presentation is one way only. If you've got a question, pop that into the question box on your meeting control panel, and we'll do our best to answer that at the end. And this event is being recorded as well. After the call, you will get an email from our system, maybe after about a day or so, with a link to recording, and you can share that with your colleagues. And we'll pop it up on our YouTube channel as well, for good measure. Just a brief introduction into Wizard Systems. I think those listening live are aware of us, but we are, as I say, an independent CRM solutions provider. Workbooks is one of a few key CRM solutions that we provide. We've got many years experience and we provide the complete package around Workbooks. We provision the product for you, help you on implementation, training, and all the ongoing support as well. Okay, so I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Peter, and Peter will take us through the Word link. Let me just make Pete the presenter. There we go, Pete.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to share my screen, so you should see the same slide as you had there, Tim. Is that?
Yep, that's it.
My screen okay? And hear me okay, which means everybody else can.
Yes, no problem.
Good. Okay, good. Well, good morning to everybody. And as Tim mentioned, we're going to have a look at the Word Addin that's used within Workbooks. It's been out for some time now, but in the last bulletin, hopefully you spotted that they've enhanced or made some enhancements to it. So this was back last month now, and I've been looking forward to this for some time. I knew it was on its way a while back, but it allows, if you have a look at this bulletin, it allows extra tables within the production of the Word template, which means you can actually pull information from different parts of a record based on a report and using report views. I'll go into a little bit more detail and show you how it's built, but I thought for this morning I would show you the existing capability. They've changed the way that you build the template slightly, and I'll talk about that. But I'm going to show you the existing capability, and then I'm going to show you an example of how you can use this enhancement to produce different parts and have a look at a larger proposal type document rather than a simple quote. This Word link is not restricted to just quotations. You can use any part of the system, provided you can create a report on the areas that you want to show. You can choose to produce a Word document. So this could be as simple as an organization record, perhaps, and you want to show different information, so you can print out a document with some information about a customer or organization or person, or even in this case, a quote, an invoice, a contract record, that type of thing. So ideal way of doing that. And of course, one of the big advantages using the Word add-in is that you haven't got to get into coding a PDF document, because you can produce a PDF from a Word document. It's a lot easier for users to add and amend details in the final document before its production and sending to a client perhaps. So let's take a look at the example. Now I've prepared a quote document in my sample database here. So I'm going to open that and just see what we have here. So this is a standard quotation record. I've even left it as draft. You could have posted it by using the complete option. But you can see in here there's some information at the top of the screen, and I've got some multiple line items at the bottom here. Now, the traditional option, and those that have attended a webinar before showing this feature will recognize my quote document that I have in this Word drop down here. So the Word Addin within Workbooks gives you this menu, and you can see here I've got customer quotation. And if I click on this, what that essentially does is give you a download, and you can see it's downloaded in my Chrome bar at the bottom here, a document for me to open up. And if I open that, it opens Microsoft Word. Now, they are protected documents, so Word sees it coming from an external source, so you have to enable editing. And then what you get is the Word panel over on the right hand side. Now, if this is the first time you've used it, it will ask you to log into your account within that Word panel. But I don't know whether you can see on the left here, it's populated all of the quote with the information from that quote record. And of course, you can then use Word in the normal way. So you could add some content to this document. You can edit it slightly and change things a little bit around. And then, of course, in good old Word fashion, you would save that document in the normal way and save it to a particular location if you wanted to. As for producing a PDF, you can see over on the right within the Word Addin area, this panel on the right hand side, it says upload the document to a books as a PDF. So if I click on that, I can give it a name. So I'm just going to call this a webinar sample, yeah, and upload it. And that uploads back into Workbooks. So what I'm going to do is close that Word document down, go back to the record itself, this quote, and you can see in the Files menu, now we've got the webinar sample and it's produced a PDF. If I click on that, you can see, anybody can go and see that PDF produced. So what I've just shown you there fairly swiftly is the standard Word Addin for Workbooks in its traditional format. But what they've done is they've given the ability now to add multiple tables in that. If I go back to that Word PDF, you can see this is a single template with everything in it. Now, one of the things that I was hoping to do when this first came out was to split this up. So, you know, perhaps break these into categories, or, you know, have products and then a separate table for options, that type of thing. And that's exactly what they've done, is they've allowed multiple tables within the Word document now. So the best way to show this is another example that I've got. And I've produced a proposal type document. And just before I run this, let's have a look at the line items down here a little bit. So what I've used in the background, I've used this product category to break down different sections of my proposal document. In fact, what I've done is I've pulled anything that's got a category of software and put it in a separate section. Anything that says product, I've put it in a separate section within the proposal document called hardware. And everything else I've put into a section of services or other. Yeah. So you can imagine building a larger quote with all these different types. You could have options and that type of thing. You could have different views of how those appear. So what I'm going to do is show you here this Word proposal. So it works in exactly the same way. It's using that option to, let's just turn off that scanning, build this document in the background. So I'm going to click on that document and enable editing. It might take a little bit longer to build, Let's just have a look. Yeah, here. So that, yeah, has opened that panel. Takes a couple more seconds because it's got to go through a much more detailed report, but you can see it's populated it. So here I've got this proposal. I've got a date on it that's come from the record. I've got the name of the customer, the name of the assigned to has gone straight into the prepared by. There's a bit of extra information in this proposal document, some other details, and now you can see here. Now I've put some small tables in here, and I've totaled up the values of those different parts of the quote. So I've got my hardware section, software as just totals, and then if I move down, what I've done in this proposal document is produced a table to show each part of that. So this is stripped out just those bits where it says product in my quote, and I've called it under a heading of hardware. And if I go down to my next page, this is my software part of that. And then finally, that last section, which was other services and costs, which I've broken down into that last section. And then my proposal documents goes on to T's and C's and other things down here. But of course, because this is a Word document, if you wanted to add anything, you can change and edit this document in the normal way that you would in Word. But nice to have merged all of this, split it up, and use different sections of that quote document for different sections of this proposal document. And then, of course, as I said, in normal way, you can save this document and produce a document in the same way. And then, of course, if I wanted to upload that to the quote within Workbooks, I do it in the normal way using that PDF option. So going back here, I just want to give you a bit of insight in how that's built. If you're using the traditional way of doing this, the previous processes that we used, you know that you create a Word document and you create a report and join the two together, which I'll show you in a moment. But there's a slight change to that in that, let me just go to my desktop here, 2 seconds. There's a slight change to the way that they're built. Now, if you do go and have a look at the documentation, the original quotation template is built in a Word document, and I have that in front of us here. And you can see what I've got is field markers throughout the document to decide where the information is going to go. And these labels here just match up to a column that you've built into a report. So you bring the two together in the background. That's what it does. But there is a slight change in the table creation. What you had to do before was when you opened the Word Addin within Word, you had to highlight the table and do something called binding. That binding is no longer required. What you do is you put a little a start and an end before and after each table. So you can see here it says repeat table, and then it's this / repeat table which closes that tab, or tag I should say. And that runs through every line item within that quote and produce that. So that's how I did the first one. The new enhancement allows you to bring together the same sort of thing, but you add a bit of extra to this initial tag to tell it which view on a report to use. So if you've done reporting, you know that you can create these extra views or summaries on the report. So if I go into this Word proposal, hopefully you can see, again, I've built it in a very similar way. You've got these field markers coming from a report, and I'll show you the reports shortly. And then further down, you can see there's actually, although you can't see it here, there's a table in here. In fact, if I do this and show you, you'll see if I add some borders, you can see there's a table in there with a slightly extended repeat table area and an ended one of the repeat table close tag. But it's this first bit that tells it to go off to a particular report, yeah, and run a particular view. So it only shows the hardware and the software and the other areas. And again, when we get to each of those separate tables, I've done exactly the same. And if we go and have a look at the report, hopefully you can see how that's put together. So let me just drop back into Workbooks here. So for those that have done this already, you'll know that what you do is you go and create a template in the background under the marketing area. And if I go into templates here, and let's have a look at the webinar proposal example template that I've produced. And essentially what you do is you give the template a name, and that's what appears in the drop-down list when you're in the quote. You upload the documents that you've just seen into this area, and then you point a report at that document. And if I open that report, you can see this is an example of that report that's driving the information in that. This details tab is just to produce these other areas. And you can see here, hardware, and you can see the column headings, quantity, description, unit price, and that's what's running that. So this looks only where there's a category of hardware. So if you are familiar with the reports, what I've done there is on the hardware summary, which will be here, I've added some criteria. Only look where the category says products, and that's pretty much how it's built. So I know that's a quick visit to that, but those that are familiar with the Word Addin, you can see that normally you would just use one area of a report, but you can actually point the Word document tables at each of those views within that report. So it allows you a lot more control over what you're going to view within that output. So just to recap, once you've built that, you can see it's as simple as opening a quote in this example and using the layout that you want, and you can use ones with multiple tables. So I'm hoping from what I've shown you so far, you can see maybe you've got some ideas of other types of information that you might want to output. You might want to go to a particular organization, for example, and open up the organization. If I open up Atlantic Computer Services, maybe you want to produce something from an organization record and maybe show all of the activities on there. As long as you can build a report, you could create a Word layout that produces that information. But a good example, I thought, for this morning's session was a proposal type document. And I've already implemented this on a couple of customers. Just seeing the list of people that are attending today. I know there's at least one in there that might find this quite useful going forward to produce these proposal type quotes where you bring in options, actually, I think, if I look incorrectly. Okay, so Tim, have you got anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that this is a great improvement with Workbooks, a great additional capability that before the Word Addin to create professional proposals was a little bit challenging with the sort of classic way of doing it in Workbooks. I mean, Workbooks got a great way of producing those simple, quick quotes, but for more elaborate, sophisticated documents, this Word Addin is brilliant, and the integration and linking it back to contact. I would say don't be fazed by all the syntax that you might have seen on the screens. It is all very straightforward and logical once you get into it. And of course, just to repeat, if you need any assistance in using and leveraging this Word integration and you're a bit unsure yourself, please contact Wizard Systems. We're specialists in this area, and we'll be able to advise you, give you training, or even create the template for you if you want us to, if that's a better way of doing it. So, and of course, we've taken the example of a proposal, but of course, just use your imagination. I mean, anything that, any more elaborate document, going beyond the sort of quote, the quote layouts or the workbooks layouts, would be ideal candidates for using that link as well. So thanks very much, Pete. We'll go to questions now, shall we?
Yeah.
If anybody's got any questions around this feature, pop that into the question box on your meeting control panel. First question from Adam: How do I install the Word Addin?
Oh, okay. If you haven't done this already, there's essentially what you do is you would ask your administrator of Office 365 to deploy the add-in through the admin center for Office 365. And if you're doing it yourself and you have the access, probably the easiest way is if you go into the help area of workbooks, and I'll just type Word actually in here, and you can see in here deploy the Word add-in, and it's quite well put together, to be honest. It describes exactly how to do it. You've got to go into the Office 365 Admin Center, settings, integration, and add the Workbooks app. It really is straightforward. Any problems, as Tim mentioned, feel free to come back to us, but it's not tough to do. It can take a little while to appear in Word. You can see here there's a little bit of a warning, 12 hours. I've not known it take that long, but it's possible. Anybody done any changes to your Office account, you'll know that it can take some time to roll out to the particular users. Yeah. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Adam. And Terry is asking, what's the best way to email the quote to the customer? So we saw the creation and the PDF and so getting it, of course, getting it to the customer. Very good question.
Okay, yeah. So again, if you want to take a look at that other webinar we did, there's some detail in there as well. Essentially what you would do is produce the Word document. So if I go back to that customer quotation, in the normal way, do my little kind of merge, enable editing, and it does the merge into that document, and you've got the document, and the same with the proposal document. And then you would use Office in the normal way to send this to the customer. So those that use the Microsoft Outlook, you go to File, and if you choose the share option when you're in a Word document, you get the option to share this as a PDF. Yeah, and you can see attach a copy instead. So if I choose this, and you can see here it's created the attachment of a PDF against an email ready to send. And of course, if you use your normal Outlook add-in, which has appeared on the right-hand side here, you can then link it to a customer record. Or if you're not using the Outlook add-in, the WES, again, you can pick that up on another webinar, but you could also BCC this to your Dropbox, email Dropbox within the Workbooks, and then it will of course link to the account because the subject line matches the quote number, unless you change that, of course.
Yeah, I think that Workbooks Outlook add-in, we need to revisit that as well in another future event.
Absolutely.
Sort of showcasing that a little bit more. So very straightforward, Terry, in the normal way. I don't think there's any more questions, Pete, so we can wrap up. Well, thanks very much, all of you, those of you attending live. Appreciate spending the time to listen live. Of course, there is a recording if you want to share. That will be made available to you, and share that as many times as you want to. If you've got any suggestions for future topics that would be that's on your mind, that you think may be of interest to other Workbooks users, please contact myself, Tim Wilmot, or my colleague Peter Johnson. We'd be happy to consider that for future events. Something that you think would be popular for other workbooks users that maybe could be handled in about 5-10 minutes. We'd love to hear from you. But thanks very much for those of you listening live, and we'll catch up with you on the next event. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.